Welcome to a journey through time, where we uncover the most perplexing and unsolved mysteries of the early 1900s. These stories remain shrouded in mystery, leaving us with more questions than answers. From political assassinations to unexplained disappearances and brutal murders, the dawn of the 20th century was a time of great change and, sadly, great darkness. Join me as we delve into the shadowy corners of the past, examining the evidence, the suspects, and the enduring enigmas that continue to fascinate and haunt us. These are the stories of lives cut short, of justice denied, and of the enduring power of mystery. In the heart of Kentucky, a political drama unfolded that would leave a state in shock and a nation bewildered. William Goebel, a man of ambition on the cusp of becoming governor, found himself caught in a web of political intrigue and violence.
On a cold January morning, as I made my way to the state capitol, the crack of gunfire shattered the air. Shot by an unseen assailant, I clung to life, my political aspirations hanging in the balance.
Despite the best efforts of medical science, Goebel succumbed to his wounds, leaving behind a legacy of unanswered questions. Who fired the fatal shot? Was it a lone gunman driven by personal vendetta, or a conspiracy that reached the highest levels of power? The mystery of William Goebel's assassination remains unsolved, a stark reminder of the fragility of life and the dark side of political ambition. The tranquil countryside of Könitz, Germany, became the backdrop for a chilling disappearance that would baffle investigators for over a century. Ernst Winter, a man known to his community, vanished without a trace, leaving behind a void filled with fear and uncertainty.
Days later, a gruesome discovery shattered the quiet town's facade of normalcy. Body parts, confirmed to be mine, emerged from the depths of the local river, painting a grim picture of foul play.
The discovery, far from solving the mystery, only deepened the sense of dread. Who would commit such a heinous act? What motive could possibly justify such brutality? Despite the passage of time, the case of Ernst Winter remains unsolved, a chilling reminder that even in the most ordinary of places, darkness can lurk. As families gathered to celebrate the joy of Christmas in Savannah, Missouri, a sinister act cast a pall over the holiday season. Frank Richardson, a respected merchant, lay dead in his home, his life taken by a bullet in a senseless act of violence. The festive spirit turned to shock and disbelief as news of the murder spread. Who would target Richardson in his own home on such a sacred night? Suspicions fell upon those closest to him, whispers of business rivalries and hidden resentments filling the air. Despite numerous trials and a community desperate for answers, the murder of Frank Richardson remains unsolved. The killer, shrouded in the shadows of time, has never been brought to justice, leaving a stain on the town's history and a family forever haunted by the loss of their patriarch. Chapter 4. In the quiet town of Twitter, South Australia, a horrific crime shattered the peace and left a community reeling.
Bertha Shippen, a young girl on the cusp of womanhood, was found brutally murdered in her own home.
The savagery of the attack shocked even the most seasoned investigators. Who could commit such an unspeakable act against an innocent child?
Suspicions immediately fell upon Bertha's elder sister, Minnie, but a lack of concrete evidence cast doubt on her guilt.
Despite intense public scrutiny and a trial that gripped the nation, no one was ever convicted of Bertha's murder. The case remains open, a chilling reminder of the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface of even the most idyllic communities. Chapter 5. The peaceful village of Piesenhall, nestled in the English countryside, was shaken to its core by the brutal murder of Rose Harson.
Found stabbed to death in her own home, the young woman's life was cut tragically short, leaving behind a mystery that continues to baffle to this day.
Suspicions quickly swirled around a local man, William Gardner, who had been romantically involved with Rose. However, despite a series of trials and intense public scrutiny, no conclusive evidence could link Gardner to the crime.
The murder of Rose Harsant remains unsolved. a haunting reminder of the dark undercurrents that can exist even in the most tranquil of settings.
The passage of time has done little to dim the memory of Rose, or to quell the burning question of who took her life so brutally. In the bustling city of Buffalo, New York, a wealthy businessman became the victim of a brazen and brutal murder that sent shockwaves through the city's elite. Edwin L. Burdick, a man accustomed to the finer things in life, met a violent end in the supposed sanctuary of his own home. As darkness fell over the city, an intruder slipped into Burdick's home while his family slept peacefully upstairs, unaware of the horror unfolding below. Burdick was found bludgeoned to death, his life taken in a crime that seemed both personal and calculated. The police investigation, hampered by a lack of witnesses and a motive shrouded in mystery, failed to bring the perpetrator to justice. The murder of Edwin L. Burdick stands as a chilling reminder that wealth and status offer no protection from the darkness that can grip even the most civilized of societies. Chapter 7. The Mysterious End of Al Swearingen. From the lawless streets of Deadwood to the bustling metropolis of Denver, the life and death of Al Swearingen played out like a scene from a gritty western. Known for his ruthless business acumen and his connection to the infamous Gem Theatre brothel, Swearingen was a man who lived dangerously, courting both fortune and fatality. His life, however, came to an abrupt and violent end on the streets of Denver, far from the familiar vices of Deadwood. Found lying in a pool of his own blood, a massive head wound silencing his once booming voice, Swearingen's demise left a void in the city's underworld and a mystery that continues to intrigue historians and true crime enthusiasts alike. Despite the efforts of law enforcement, no suspects were ever named, and the circumstances surrounding Swearingen's death remain shrouded in speculation. Was it a rival seeking revenge, a disgruntled associate silencing a loose end, or a random act of violence that cut short a life lived on the edge? Chapter 8. The 20th Century Limited Derailment. On a fateful summer night in 1905, the 20th Century Limited, a symbol of speed and luxury, met a tragic end on the tracks of the Lake Shore and Michigan Southern Railway. The train, known for ferrying the wealthy and elite between Chicago and New York City, derailed at high speed, transforming a journey of opulence into a scene of unimaginable carnage. As the mangled wreckage came to a halt, the true horror of the incident became horrifyingly clear. 21 passengers, their lives cut short in an instant, lay dead amidst the twisted metal and shattered glass. The nation mourned, but amidst the grief and disbelief, a chilling question arose. Was this a tragic accident or a deliberate act of sabotage? Despite a thorough investigation, the cause of the derailment remained a perplexing mystery. No mechanical failures were found, and no credible claims of responsibility ever surfaced. Chapter 9. The Unresolved Murder of Tommaso Petto. In the shadowy world of early 20th century organized crime, Tommaso Petto was a name whispered both in fear and admiration. A top enforcer for the notorious Morello crime family, Petto was a man who lived by the sword, his hands stained with the blood of his enemies. However, even in the violent world he inhabited, Petto's life was not immune to the treacherous currents of betrayal and revenge. On a cold evening in 1905, as he stood outside his home in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, Petto's reign of terror came to an abrupt and brutal end. Ambushed by an unknown assailant, Petto was stabbed multiple times, his lifeblood spilling onto the pavement as his killer melted into the night. The murder sent shockwaves through the underworld, a stark reminder that even the most feared of men were not invincible. Chapter 10. The Killing of John Otunba Payne. In the bustling city of Lagos, Nigeria, John Otunba Payne, a prominent figure known for his role as a sheriff and administrator, became the victim of a shocking and unsolved murder that sent ripples of fear and outrage through the community.
As a respected member of society, my life was dedicated to upholding the law and ensuring justice.
Yet, in a cruel twist of fate, he would become a victim of the very forces he sought to control. On a fateful night in 1906, tragedy struck within the walls of Paine's own home. Attacked by unknown assailants, Paine was brutally murdered, his life cut short in a crime that seemed to defy explanation.
The investigation, hampered by a lack of evidence and the whispered rumors of a conspiracy that reached the highest levels of power, failed to bring the perpetrators to justice.
Chapter 11. The tragic case of Jeanne Van Calck. In the heart of Brussels, Belgium, a city known for its beauty and grandeur, a horrific crime unfolded that would shake the community to its core and expose the dark underbelly lurking beneath its charming facade. 9-year-old Jeanne Van Calck, a child full of life and innocence, disappeared from her neighborhood, leaving behind a void filled with fear and uncertainty. Days later, the search for Jeanne ended in the most gruesome of ways. Her dismembered body, bearing the marks of unspeakable brutality, was discovered, transforming the anguish of a missing child into a city's collective nightmare. The murder sent shockwaves through Brussels, igniting public outrage and a desperate plea for justice. Despite the public outcry and the tireless efforts of investigators, the case of Jeanne Van Calck remains unsolved. The killer, a shadowy figure who preyed upon innocence, was never brought to justice, leaving an enduring scar on the city's soul and a chilling reminder of the vulnerability of childhood. Chapter 12. The assassination of Marino's Antipas. In the world of journalism and law, where words hold power and the pursuit of truth often clashes with dangerous interests, Marinos Antipas, a Greek lawyer and journalist, became a target of a deadly conspiracy that silenced his voice and cast a shadow over the principles he held dear. Known for his sharp intellect and unwavering commitment to justice, Antipas used his platform to expose corruption and speak truth to power, making him both an admired figure and a thorn in the side of those who operated in the shadows. However, his pursuit of truth came at a heavy price. On a fateful day in 1907, while walking the streets of Pyrgos, Greece, Antipas was ambushed and murdered by unknown assailants. The killers, their faces hidden, their motives shrouded in darkness, escaped into the labyrinthine streets, leaving behind a city reeling from the loss of one of its most courageous voices. Chapter 13. In the dimly lit streets of Camden Town, London, a gruesome discovery sent shockwaves through the city, capturing the attention of the public and the press alike. Emily Dimmock, a young woman living a life shrouded in mystery, was found brutally murdered in her own bed, her life taken in a crime that exposed the dark underbelly of Edwardian London. The details of the murder as they emerged sent chills down the spines of even the most hardened investigators. Dimmock had been decapitated, her head nowhere to be found, adding a macabre twist to an already horrific crime. The city held its breath as the police embarked on a manhunt for the perpetrator of this gruesome act. The investigation, fraught with dead ends and conflicting accounts, ultimately led to the arrest and trial of Robert Wood, a man romantically linked to Dimmock. However, despite the circumstantial evidence and the fervour of public opinion, Wood was acquitted due to a lack of conclusive proof. Chapter 14. The shooting of Pat Garrett. Pat Garrett, a legendary lawman whose name echoed throughout the American West, had etched his name in history by gunning down the notorious outlaw Billy the Kid. His reputation as a fearless and skilled lawman, a symbol of justice in a land often ruled by the gun, became both his legacy and his burden. Yet even a man who had stared down death countless times could not outrun its grip forever. On a desolate stretch of road near Las Cruces, New Mexico, Garrett's life came to a sudden and violent end, his own story ending in a hail of gunfire just like the outlaws he'd brought to justice. On that fateful day in 1908, Garrett, accompanied by 2 associates, was ambushed and shot in the back of the head. The killer, concealed in the vast expanse of the New Mexican desert, escaped, leaving behind a cloud of mystery and a legacy forever intertwined with violence. Chapter 15: The Burning Farmhouse and the Mystery of Belle Gunness. In the annals of American crime, few names evoke the same chilling fascination as Belle Gunness, a woman whose life and crimes became the stuff of legend, a tale whispered around campfires and recounted in hushed tones. A Norwegian immigrant who had settled in rural Indiana, Gunness's story was one of deceit, greed, and a chilling disregard for human life. As a string of husbands and suitors met untimely ends, whispers of foul play began to circulate. Gunness, however, maintained her innocence, weaving a web of lies that concealed her sinister deeds. But the truth, like a smouldering ember, was destined to erupt in a conflagration that would consume her carefully constructed facade. On a fateful night in 1908, Gunness's farmhouse was engulfed in flames, reducing the structure to a smouldering ruin. Amidst the ashes, investigators made a grisly discovery: the headless body of a woman believed to be Belle Gunness herself. Chapter 16: The Unsolved Murder of Caroline Mary Luard. In the idyllic countryside of Kent, England, where rolling hills met manicured gardens, a chilling crime shattered the tranquility of a summer day. Caroline Mary Luard, a woman of wealth and privilege, became the victim of a brutal and senseless murder that left a community reeling and a family shattered. On the grounds of her summer home, a place meant for relaxation and respite, tragedy struck with the swiftness of a viper's strike. Luard, caught off guard, was shot twice in the head, her life extinguished in a burst of violence that seemed at odds with the serene surroundings. The investigation, hampered by a lack of concrete evidence and a tangle of conflicting accounts, failed to bring the perpetrator to justice. Rumors swirled through the community, whispers of love affairs gone wrong and dark secrets hidden beneath a veneer of respectability, but no definitive answers emerged. Outro. These stories, filled with intrigue and unanswered questions, remind us of the mysteries that still linger in the shadows of history. The dawn of the 20th century, an era of immense change and progress, was also a time marked by darkness and unanswered questions. The cases we've explored, each unique in its circumstances, yet bound by the common thread of mystery, offer a glimpse into a world where justice was often elusive and the truth remained tantalizingly out of reach. The victims, forever frozen in time, serve as a solemn reminder of the fragility of life and the enduring power of the unknown. Perhaps one day the truth will come to light, illuminating the dark corners of these unsolved mysteries. Until then, they stand as a testament to the enduring power of the unknown, a reminder that some secrets refuse to be buried with the passage of time.